Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for joining tonight's training. Basically, what should your customer expect from you as an agent? Start to finish of the whole process of booking somebody's holiday and obviously waiting for them to travel. So during the initial inquiry, I think the first thing, and I don't think it's any surprise to anybody, is clear and accurate information, making sure that you are listening to their needs, letting them have the time to speak, jot some notes down, wait until they've finished. If you then feel as though they may have missed something or you want to expand on something that they've said, then go ahead and do that. But make sure that both ways round, it's clear and it's accurate. So let them talk, let them finish, and then ask them anything that they may have missed or any finer details that you might want. And obviously, the dates, any preferences on destination, any accessibility requirements, any special requests, anything that you know is going to be a big tick in their box. We've had the conversation around the word budget before for anybody who's new or anybody who hasn't managed to watch that. In my time of being a travel agent, the word budget has always been classed as a negative word. So there are many other ways of getting that in there, which obviously we absolutely do need to get it in there in that initial inquiry stage. And the thing is, a customer will, hopefully they should be expecting you to ask them what their budget is. But there's so many different ways of doing it rather than such. I would class do you have a budget as a very closed question? Because if they turn around to you and go, no, then that's it. You can't really expand on that. If you go down the route of what research have you done yourself? Have you managed to do any research yourself? Not really. I'm not very good on the internet. Okay, that's absolutely fine. You're already kind of ticking that box because you already know that they've not been elsewhere and got any prices. On the flip side of that, yes, I have. I've been online and I've had a look. I'm just not great at it. No problem. Tell me what you found. And did you, I appreciate you may not be the best on the internet. Did you find anything that you liked? Yes, I did. I liked this one, etc., etc., etc. You can either go away and see what price that is, or they're going to say or you can go down the route of, okay, why have you not booked that? It was too expensive. It wasn't close enough to the beach. Okay, so that one wasn't close enough to the beach for you. Just out of interest, what kind of price was that coming in at? £1,500. Right, okay, perfect. So they're happy with that price. There's ways around it of still being able to get that. Your customer will expect you to be wanting a price out of them, but doing it in a different kind of way will just help all around. It's more of an open question and you build in a bit more of that relationship side of it as well. The next thing that I have written down here is impartial advice. So absolutely recommend products and areas and destinations and hotels, however that might look, but because they suit, not because it's the easiest thing to book. You need to be transparent about perhaps star ratings, obviously board basis, the location, all of that kind of thing, any limitations. So not because it's the easiest thing, but because it actually ticks their boxes. By all means, recommend places that you have been, but it's not a case of you should go to this one because I really enjoyed it. And in fact, that can work the complete opposite way. I went to X destination. I personally enjoyed it. However, I'll be totally honest, from what you've written, from what I've got written down here, I'm not actually too sure that that would be for you. And again, it's trust, it's open communication, and it's building that relationship. So impartial advice, you absolutely can make recommendations as long as they're for the right reasons. The next thing that customers will expect is clear pricing. What is included, what isn't included, any optional extras. So I think going off experience, I think one of the main things that people do forget about is travel insurance. And That's okay. You know, if they want to do travel insurance today, which would be obviously ideal for them, some people do want to do it 3 months down the line. Some people will do it a day before they travel. But then you have those people in between that forget, that just may assume that it's included. So even something as daft as saying, this is your flights, your accommodation, your transfers, etc., etc., etc. What you would need to purchase yourself is your travel insurance, and you can, make sure that that suits any needs that you have, blah, blah, blah. And obviously, any optional extras. I haven't included your pre-booked seats here, although if you wish to do that, that is starting at £18 per person each way. Then telling them obviously how the payments would work. So the total cost of this holiday is £2,500. You can secure this holiday today for a £99 per person deposit. The rest of your balance will be due on X date. And of course, you are ABTA and ATOL protected with this trip. So you've got your protection in there, you've got your payments in there, and you've got, what isn't included and any optional extras they might want to add on, like I say, pre-booked seats. It could be you recommending, have you thought about an airport lounge at the airport prior to departure? Just things like that, but being open and honest, and giving them a breakdown of exactly what's included. Realistic availability, I have also put here. Some people will creating urgency is never a bad thing, because obviously we want the booking, but also we want to know that we've done our job right, and we want that customer to secure that holiday at that price. Because leaving it, or I'll probably do it tomorrow, or I'm definitely going to do it tomorrow, I just can't do it tonight, that's all well and good, and I'm not saying that they wouldn't. You may well have absolutely clinched that booking, but is the price going to go up? You are going to have to recheck it all tomorrow when they're ready. And sometimes people create the urgency perhaps a little bit too much. Suppliers like TUI will actually tell you, they'll go red and they'll say 8 rooms remaining, 4 rooms remaining. That's of that specific room type. It may say 7 seats left on this flight. So TUI do it, and you are more than within your right to advise the customer of that. I completely appreciate that you cannot book this until tomorrow. I do just have to let you know that this room type here, it is showing me that there are 3 of those left. Should they be sold prior to you being able to book, there is then a sea view room available. However, that does come with a supplement of £100 per person for the week, and it is currently showing that there's 6 of those left as well. Be realistic. Don't be over the top, because actually what you're going to do is push them away. But just make sure that you are telling them it's available as of now. I cannot guarantee it'll be available tomorrow. However, of course, I will check, or, if it is in red, just be honest. Also explaining that things are subject to change until they are booked. And then when they're actually ready to book, again, just making sure that those customers are aware that they're ATOL protected. Making sure that we are licensed by ABTA. Some people will ask, some people won't, and it's certainly not a requirement to tell them. But sometimes what I find, certainly with home agents and with our kind of business model, that person will book a holiday with you, and then they'll go to work the next day and they'll be super excited, and they're like, I booked my holiday last night. Da, 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 da. All right, where did you book it? My travel agent, she works from home, or she's online, however that might look to that customer. All right. Is it like ABTA protected and all that? These kind of conversations do happen. So just slipping it in there somewhere, you're already that panic that the customer might have. Oh, I didn't ask. She didn't say. I don't know. Oh my God. Oh, what time's my dinner? Just literally putting it in there. You've already relaxed that customer's mind without them knowing. Also let them know that they will receive a confirmation. Excuse me. If you're not too sure when that confirmation is going to arrive, that's okay. Tell them it could be up to 48 hours. We know realistically we tend to get them pretty much straight away, sometimes within a day. I know we've got an agent on here tonight, and I think hers took 2, maybe even 3 days, because they had to mess around with some costings and things like that. Tell them that they'll receive one, but you don't have to say, well, oh, I should get it tonight. If I don't know, I'll definitely get it tomorrow. Send it over to you. It's okay. I will receive a confirmation realistically within the next 48 hours. I will check through it before I send it over to you. If you can look out for it over the next couple of days, if you could go ahead and then check it once you receive it, please let me know as soon as possible if there's anything that doesn't quite look right on there. Things like that. An ATOL certificate. When I send your confirmation, there will be an ATOL certificate attached to that. Again, we spoke about that earlier, that you do have that ATOL protection. If I could just ask that you make sure that you either print a copy of that or you have that screenshotted, because that is a legal requirement. Simple as that. Clear terms and conditions. So if they do have to be directed to full booking T's and C's, make sure you say that out loud, because they will include cancellation rules, amendment fees, any conditions from the supplier, what happens if the supplier makes a change, if they have a flight time change, what happens if their plans change. So again, you don't have to outline all of that, but if you literally said to a customer, if I could direct you to his terms and conditions, that will explain any cancellation rules, any amendment fees, any of their conditions, and what happens if your plans or anything like that change. TUI was not the best example for me to use, because I know I've been asked the question actually either today or yesterday. They do a low deposit. If you have a customer that is travel or booking with TUI, and it will show you, it'll make a lot of sense for anybody who hasn't seen it. When you do see it, it will make a lot of sense. It will say to you, deposit due today, 150 for 2 people. Deposit due on X date, let's say the 4th of February, 250, and then balance due date, whatever date that might be. What that is telling you is the full deposit of that holiday is £400. They will allow you to secure it on 150 and pay the top up in X amount of weeks. But what you would need to mention to that customer is that between now and the 4th of February, as I've just made up off the top of my head, should anything change, they are liable for that full £400 deposit. So if we need to go over that again at the end, I certainly will. I can see the chat coming through. I will do any questions and stuff at the end before we stop the recording. If anybody does want me to go back over that, by all means, I will do. But it's just being clear. It's giving them those terms and conditions and just directing them to it. And then accurate documentation. So again, we've kind of just touched on that with regards to, once you receive that confirmation, please go ahead and go through it. Should anything seem incorrect, if there's anything you're not quite sure of, do make sure you get back in touch with me as early as possible. And of course, making sure that all of the details that they would need are on there. Making sure that the dates are on there, making sure that the full accommodation details are on there. If you have to sort of doctor any of them, and it could be something as simple as the airport has been abbreviated to the 3-letter code. That could absolutely knock a customer off. You just don't know what kind of experience they've got with booking a holiday. And obviously, we're trying to make it as easy as possible. It could be that they have abbreviated the room type. For example, I know for a fact that there will be some agents, certainly customers, there may even be some agents on here, that if something said the room type was double with LSV, they may not have a clue what that means. So just changing that to limited sea view, which is what that is in this case, can just maybe, again, relax that customer and help them not have to make an unnecessary, time out of their day to make a call to you or write an email to you saying, I don't know what this is. Can you tell me what this means? So it's just thinking from the customer's perspective as well. And of course, if there's any extras or anything like that they have added on, either let them know in an email that this is the confirmation for the holiday. I am still awaiting the confirmation for the car, or telling them that they're both in there as separate attachments. Just again, thinking of it outside of the box from that customer's perspective. The next thing that they absolutely should be expecting is to have you as a point of contact. What I mean by that is they should know that it would be you that would be contacting them about a hotel change. It would be you contacting them about an airline. You can't expect your customer to, let's say that they do have, in fact, I've got one at the moment. I have got 2 customers who are traveling on the 27th of this month, and they have just found out that their accommodation is closing down, and therefore they cannot go to that hotel. I would never, ever want to hear, and unfortunately it does happen, for anybody to say, well, you need to contact JTA yourself as the customer and sort it out with them. Absolutely not. That is what we are there for from start to finish. If they have had a flight time change, you call that customer and you say to them, I'm really, really sorry to call you on a Monday afternoon. However, I've just received an email from the airline, and unfortunately there has been a slight flight time change. So you were initially flying at 8:30 in the morning. That has now changed to 11 a.m. If that customer in return says, I'm not happy with that for whatever reason, I'm not happy with that, please do not ever tell them to contact the airline and deal with it. It may be something that you weren't planning on that day. It's obviously going to be extra time and it's going to be a bit more work for you. But there's one thing having the customer, you would also want them to come back to you. Okay, I'm going to be totally honest with you. They do class this as a minor change, but I do appreciate that you have paid that supplement to have an early morning flight. I can't guarantee anything, but what I am going to do is I'm going to give them a call. I'm going to see if they do have any other options, and I'm going to come back to you. Just ensure that they know you are their point of contact. And then prior to departure, there's so many different ways that people are going to work. I don't expect anybody to necessarily give anybody requirements, like key requirements or anything before they go. But I do think, and I think we've spoken about this on a couple of different trainings, I do believe that if you can schedule within your calendars, whether that's paper diary or your email calendar, however that looks to you and however that would work best for you, I think if you were to email a customer 2, 3, 4 weeks before and have it in your diaries for that day, they travel in 28 days, let's just say, and pop in there, please refer to the Foreign Office website for the most up-to-date passport requirements. Please refer to X website for the latest visa requirements. What else could it be? Do you know what? It could even be, please ensure you're now thinking about getting your spending money, something that's nothing to do with you whatsoever, but is almost just like a service tick, a customer service tick. Please ensure you check your ticket for your luggage allowance, as different airlines offer different weight allowances. Simple as that. If it's an online check-in, 28 days, obviously bar a few, there's always exceptions to the rules, but 28 days, it could literally be, I am now able to do your online check-in. If this is something you feel that you can do yourself, these are the details that you need. And that could be flight reference, the website, guiding them to the website. If not, please send me copies of your passports and I will do this for you. Just again, it's that customer service. It's bringing that customer back, because retention is huge. Any updates on itinerary changes? I think, again, that does kind of go without saying. Again, we've just sort of touched on it with flight times or, room types or anything like that. Just make sure that if you do get something through, you let that customer know at the earliest convenience. Support with amendments. If you have a customer that needs to change their date, then again, I appreciate it could be taking extra time out and it's something that you didn't have planned for that day, but this is all customer service. Any upgrades, anything additional that they might want to add on, but if it is great. But if it is something that is maybe not necessarily in your favor, they want to change the date, or they perhaps want to cancel a passenger off, things like that, please, again, just make sure that you as the agent are handling that. By all means, let them know it isn't something that you can do on your system. You are going to have to get them on hold. You're not too sure what fees may apply until you've spoken to them, etc., etc. But please make sure that you are doing it for them. And then, excuse me, whilst you're actually traveling. So being a support if something goes wrong. If you have got a package holiday, the agent should, and I know that, again, this isn't a responsibility per se, but I think an agent should be assisting with issues. Now, again, that can look very, very different. Each case would be case by case. You could have, and this has happened, you could have a customer that turns up at the airport and their taxi isn't there. And again, this has happened with one of our agents who isn't in tonight, but it has happened. And the first thing that customer did was call her. And from there, the first thing that she then decided to do was call me. I really, really need your help, Sharna. I really need your help. I've got a customer who's turned up at the airport and the taxi's not there. And she was in a panic as well. Okay, no problem. Do you know whether or not they've got their voucher? Yeah, they've got the voucher. Yeah. Okay, do you know if they've rang the emergency telephone number that's on there? I'm not too sure. I think they've just rang me straight away. Okay, no problem. I'll tell you what, because they're stood there, panicking and wondering what's going on and confused and probably a bit annoyed. It's the start of the holiday. Why don't you put the phone down from me and call the emergency number that's on the ticket? Because, of course, we have copies of the tickets because we've sent them. Give the emergency telephone number a call. Find out, if anything, what's happened, what's going on, where's the breakdown kind of been, and let's go from there. Right, okay. She's rang me back. They're saying that the taxi was there, but the customers weren't. Right, I'll tell you what we need to do here. Go back to the customer, because it's been a good 15 minutes now. Go back to the customer, apologise, explain that you've already been in touch with the company. They are happy to send out another taxi, but it's going to be 50 minutes, whatever it was. Are they happy to pay for a taxi and get a receipt, send it straight through to you? You can actually deal with it whilst they're still away. And that's exactly what we did. They got their own taxi. They sent a picture of the receipt over. We sent it to that company. We obviously made sure that the company had them down with the right details for coming home and dealt with their refund and stuff like that. Simple as that. Now, I'm not saying that that is necessarily your responsibility, because as I've just, the first thing I said, there is a telephone number for that customer to ring should they need to. But you, if you've done everything correct, you've always been that person, that customer's point of contact and the first person that they're going to. So actually, if you flip it on its head and you see it as a positive rather than a negative, they've got there, they've had a bit of an issue, and they thought, do you know what? I guarantee that Sharna will be able to sort this out. Let's give her a call. So actually look at it as a positive and don't panic, because there's no need. Excuse me. That could look different. So it could be that somebody's arrived at an accommodation and they've got some complaints. The first thing that you need to do there, again, always empathize with them, but that is where I would be directing them to either a rep or, you know, to the hotel management. Give them a bit of advice as well. If you feel like you need to, if you're going down to reception, just try and take the name of the person that you're speaking to and make sure that you understand what they're saying in return. You know, it could be that the aircon's broke or something like that. You know, these kind of things come in various shapes and sizes. So again, it can look all different ways. I've had somebody who wasn't happy with the way that you had to book a la carte restaurants at a hotel. If they'd have rang me while they were on holiday, would there be anything that I could have done? No. Could I have directed them to the reception? Perhaps. What I could have said was, why don't you go and ask them to help you? If you're not too sure on how to do it, is it possible that you can go to reception and ask them to maybe help you? Or if they've maybe got another system. So obviously each case is going to be an individual case and it will be a case by case basis. If it is something that is completely out of your control, they think that the hotel is dirty, there's cracked tiles around the pool. I'm trying to think of things I've heard of in the past. Cracked tiles around the pool hasn't been cleaned, their room hasn't been cleaned for 4 days whilst they've been there. That is completely out of your control. That is where you are going to send them to a rep, or you are going to send them to the hotel reception, but you are also going to tell them that depending on the outcome and things like that, if they want to pop it in writing, you will happily send it on to the tour operator, to the supplier, on their behalf. It's just being that support. Because what's the point in doing all of that work and sending somebody on a holiday to then let it all go wrong, have your name, you know, dragged through the dirt, they're never coming back to you, they're telling everybody who will listen what a bad experience they had because you've just gone, dink, no, this is as far as I go now. There's just no need. Again, retention side of it. Clear guidance on what to do in an emergency. If, again, this will be on all of their tickets, but if something does go wrong, if something, you know, if there is an emergency, thinking of looking on a customer's ticket will be the last thing on their mind. And 9 times out of 10, it's in that tiny, tiny writing at the bottom. Even just familiarizing yourselves with different suppliers' tickets and how they look. Again, that's not me expecting you to read everything and memorize who says what on what ticket. But if you know that you're sending somebody a JTA ticket, is it worth just scrolling down to the bottom of that ticket and just checking, yeah, look, there's the emergency telephone numbers. So I know now with JTA, they're right down at the bottom. And then when you've got a set of TUI tickets and you're sending those off, oh, right, okay, TUI's on page 4 of like the 9-page ticket. That's different. Again, you don't need to memorize it, but it will just sort of stick there somewhere. So just clear guidance on what to do in an emergency. And then from there, what customers can sometimes expect, but absolutely should not. And we've already spoken about this. Flight times, aircraft, seat allocations, operational decisions, closures of accommodations, as I've just mentioned. I think sometimes people are very, very quick. Again, you're the first port of call, you're the first point of contact, and you've done everything for them from start to finish. And sometimes people expect that you are in control of those flight times. And when that flight time changes, it's your fault. Obviously, we know it isn't. And when you do have a customer, if and when that does occur, you just need to stay calm. You do unfortunately need to let them listen. You need to listen to them, even if they're ranting on, just listen to them. Wait until they're finished and then just explain. I'm going to call the airline. I do obviously need to let you know flight times and flight changes are completely out of my control, but I will contact them and I will see if there is anything that we can do. The same with even prior to booking. Turkey's always a great example of this because you'll get one early morning flight in about 50. And sometimes I think customers expect you to be able to get that 7 o'clock in the morning flight, but they can't fly on a Thursday. They've got to fly on a Saturday, and I think they just kind of expect you to be able to do that. Be honest, be clear, be open with them. There's nothing else that you can do. And then about the pricing. And again, this can go one of two ways. So sometimes I think that customers just think that you should give them that price. And if they decide to book 2 weeks later, it's still going to be that same cost. So again, we've already touched on this. Just be honest with them. You don't need to go absolutely 100 in. If you don't book this in the next 20 minutes, it's going to go up in price. I've told you there's only one room left. There's only 2 seats left on that plane. You don't need to go overboard, but they absolutely do need to know that prices can fluctuate. You will only be securing a price once a deposit, or obviously full payment, depending on the terms, has been made. As long as you've put that out there, if that does then occur, there's no comeback on you. And again, I just think sometimes people expect that, well, you gave me that price on the 15th of November. It's only the 4th of December. What's another one? Overriding rules. Refunds and how long refunds can take. Cancellation charges. What else is a good one? Again, I'm just trying to think back, but I'm having a bit of a mind blank. Baggage rules, whether that's the size of the hand luggage or the weight allowance that you're allowed, the fees that are charged for maybe changing a date or changing a name. Excuse me. Again, I think a lot of time customers will think or will just expect, right, okay, so it's 50 quid, but obviously that is like a £5,000 holiday. So can you waiver that for me? Again, or if you've done the right thing at the beginning and you have referred them to those terms and conditions, they will or should have already read them. But all you need to say in that case is it isn't you that set any fees or penalties, whatever it might be, but it is by the supplier. They do have to treat everybody the same, and therefore anybody that makes this change will have that same fee. And a biggie. Some people think that you should be responsible for passports, visas, entry requirements. Again, going back to what I said, if you send that email, you aren't taking any kind of responsibility, but you are helping them and providing a service of jogging their memory that perhaps they need to look at that. You could go, excuse me, you could go a little bit further. If you know that you have got a customer that is traveling to, I don't know, let's say Egypt, and you already know that you have to have 6 months valid on that passport, by all means, pop it in there. Pop it in an email. Please ensure that you've got at least 6 months validity on your passport as of the return date. But I also appreciate you may not want to do that because these things can and do change. If you are directing them, it is a service email, but they need to know that it is their responsibility. You could even say that in your booking. Let's say you're booking the holiday over the phone. You could actually even say to them, listen, I completely appreciate you not going away until the end of 2026. So I don't expect you to remember all of this information. I will let you know when the balance is due, etc., etc., etc. Also, about 28 days prior to departure, I will drop you an email. I will remind you on there that it might be time to start thinking of your currency. Excuse me. And I'll also jog your memory on there that obviously you do need to be double checking if any entry requirements, any visa requirements have changed. It's guiding, it's giving them that service, but you really, really don't need to feel like you are responsible for it. Excuse me, crikey. Sorry, guys. I think another thing that we need to start squashing, and this isn't me saying be direct and tell this to your customer as such, but I think that something we need to start squashing is that agents may have access to secret deals, can be absolutely any price, will never be beaten. Because the truth of the matter is that's not going to happen all of the time. It just isn't. All agents will aim to find the best value. We will always aim to match a price, hopefully beat it, but match a price that you have had. But again, I think all of these other things that we've just spoken about, dynamic pricing systems, those fluctuations in those costs, non-UK booking sites, all of this sort of thing. I think sometimes, and you do hear it, I'm a travel agent. Oh, are you? Yeah. Does that mean that you can send me off to Mexico for 200 quid? Honestly, the amount of times I've heard it is incredible. And I think sometimes they really do think that. And this is also where I think a lot of agents lose their confidence because they're not getting Mexico for 10 nights, 5-star all inclusive for 200 quid. But these are the things that need to be squashed. We're all doing a job. We're all using these systems and we will always try and tick all of your boxes, but we aren't going to tick every single box on a 15 lined list for £99 each. Simple as that. And one of the final things, that the agent is on duty 24 hours a day. Your customers need to know. I've spoken to a few agents about this, and again, this can look different ways. If you are predominantly using, let's say, Facebook, and you set up those automated replies when somebody messages you, I think that it's great to put your standard working hours in there. Obviously, if you state on there that you're available 24 hours a day, then absolutely good for you, but you are setting yourself up for 24 hours a day. And again, we've got an agent, he's not on here tonight, but he told me last week, the week before, he had a customer not on holiday either. So, there wasn't a case of, oh my gosh, I didn't think of the time difference or anything. Not on holiday, ringing him at 11:30 at night. And, we all need a break and we all need a little bit of sleep. So tell them, if you haven't got it on your social medias, if you're not working, on that sort of automated thing, pop it at the end of your email. Just make sure that they know. There is emergency assistance available with all tour operators, all suppliers. You do not have to be on call 24 hours a day. Sometimes they just think that you are, and it's as simple as that. I have only got one more, I promise. My final thing that I have put down here is the fact that some customers just tend to think that agents can fix anything. Weather problems, strikes, faults with an aircraft, local conditions. The list could go on. There is nothing that an agent can fix in that scenario. I have had a call from an agent probably 2 or 3 months ago now, asking whether or not I can sort out any compensation for her customer, because once they arrived at the airport, I do even believe that they may have got on the aircraft, but don't quote me. Either which way, it made no difference. To be told that they had a 55-minute delay, but they were already on the aircraft, they were ready to go. And that's not fair. Okay. What was the issue? It was the weather. Right. Okay. So they want compensation because what? Because nobody's been able to pop the head out of the window and blow the bad weather away. Some things, unfortunately, are classed as acts of God. Some things just cannot be helped. A fault with an aircraft, you know, what would you rather? Again, I've had this in the past. There was no extra legroom seats because the aircraft got changed last minute. Okay, but the aircraft got changed because there was a fault with it, so that's for your safety. What would you? And they were given a refund there and then, and free drinks for the inconvenience. So I appreciate that they still would have been due that their refund, which they were given, but they were also given like free drinks and stuff like that, and still came in like it's so bang out of order that the aircraft had a fault. Well, it'd have been 10 times worse if they hadn't have changed the aircraft, right? So yeah, just things like that, disruptions and these things that unfortunately can and do and will happen, in whatever form that might be. It's not on you, and it's as simple as that. It is not on you. So, like I say, I've just put a little summary here at the end. You are there to provide advice. You are there to hopefully tick as many boxes as physically possible and book that holiday for that customer, the best holiday they've ever been on. The financial protection, you can make sure that you're giving the accurate information. You can ensure that you are sending them clear documentation and ongoing support. They absolutely should expect honesty, clarity, and assistance where it's needed, but not miracles, not supplier override powers, and not unlimited availability, and not freezing costs for days or perhaps even weeks on end. And that is the end of my notes. And I don't think I missed anything. Crikey, I've spoke for a good 50 minutes, so I imagine not. So let me just go straight to the chat because it was pinging quite a bit. And I don't know if I've missed anything. So, excuse me. When a customer says, I don't have a budget, what questions can we ask to find out if they are fishing around? I would very much stick to the research question. In again, using your own personality, however that comes out of your mouth, the easiest, sort of rolls off the tongue. But you finding out if that customer has done research and then yes or no. So if the answer is yes, fantastic. We don't mind that you've done your own research because actually you're helping me. Great stuff. What have you found? What did you come up with when you were doing some research? Or what research have you done? Because this is the other thing as well. Some people may jump to, yes, I have been doing some research, and you jump to, oh, they've been and got prices themselves online. When actually it could be, I went into my local travel agent and picked up a brochure 2 weeks ago. We all know that brochure price, in fact, a lot of brochures don't have prices anymore, but we all know that guide prices are what's in a brochure. So what research is it that you've done? I went online and I had a quick look. Brilliant. What did you come up with? I didn't. I'm absolutely rubbish on the internet. Or, well, I did have a look, but to be honest with you, they were all coming up really, really expensive. Okay, when you say really, really expensive, what is it that they were coming up at? Well, they were coming up at £1,000 per person. Okay, no problem. So obviously, I'm now aware that you're not sort of wanting to spend that. What is your ballpark figure realistically? What are you willing to spend if I can tick all of these boxes for you? That is me kind of using my personality. That will look different for obviously every single person out there, because you always want to feel comfortable in what you're saying. And again, I can use an example of this. In an old employment, they brought in at one point that when a customer walked through the door, before, well, you were allowed to say hello, but the first thing out of your mouth had to be an inspiring quote or a completely non-travel related question. And to say, even as the store manager, which I was at the time, to say that I struggled with that is an understatement. We had, I had a colleague, I had a member of staff in there, and people would walk through that door and she would be, oh, wow, have you had your hair done? It looks absolutely gorgeous. And, oh, crikey, we were in a shopping centre, just because of where I'm going with this. Oh, crikey, you've got your umbrella as it started raining outside. And let me tell you, it sounded so natural. When I tried to say it, I came out with, well, I don't know what I came out with, but the words didn't leave my mouth. It wasn't natural for me. I know that this kind of research and that open question, that back and forward, what have you found? Okay, you found 3 different holidays. So tell me then, what was it you didn't like about them? Because obviously you're on the phone to me now, so I know you've not booked one. That comes out of my mouth quite naturally. It might not for you, but using that as a guide, using that research area, that research pool as a guide, and finding what works for you, I promise, without realizing, you'll be able to get prices out of their mouth. Can we sell or recommend travel insurance? No. And I am honestly just going to throw it out there. I have zero intentions of having travel insurance. It's a pain in the backside. Again, I'm just being transparent. I've sold it many times in the past. So you do have to be licensed and regulated by the FCA. And I think where it also isn't worth it for us, obviously, our kind of business model, we have agents that come and go. And we have agents, for example, in Ireland and places like that, still use our UK systems. We have people joining constantly on a daily basis. And the way that it works with travel insurance is you are given a script, more than one usually. If you go off script with selling travel insurance in any which way, you are classed as mis-selling or, not following the rules. You have to be up to date with it on a yearly basis without fail. Any new scripts or anything like that, you have to follow word for word, and you have to know them from ping that date that they have told you. And it just wouldn't work for our business. It honestly just wouldn't. It's more hassle than it's worth. That's just being totally honest. You aren't supposed to make any kind of recommendations. You can obviously say to somebody, okay, so you have booked a cruise. We don't sell travel insurance. You will obviously need to purchase your own. Please make sure that when you are purchasing your travel insurance, it does cover for a cruise. You may not know this, but you'd be surprised at how many travel insurances, as standard, only cover for land-based holidays. That kind of thing. You told me you're going jet skiing. Please make sure when you book your travel insurance that jet skiing is covered. Anything like that. You can certainly, do it that way, but you aren't allowed to make recommendations. If I said, well, I went with CoverWise and they were really, really good. The price was great for me, etc., etc., etc. Oh, and I had to claim and they paid me out really, really quick. And then your customer follows suit and they don't have the same experience. Perhaps they're not paid out for something. Perhaps it turns out that they were more expensive than if they'd have shopped around. That gives them the direction to be able to come back at you. Let's have a look here. I ask straight out. It usually works as I know what I'm working with, saves the how much question and allows you to say straight up, you aren't going to get 5 star. Yeah, this is the thing. You have to use your own personality. You just have to. And some things will work for some people and others won't. Where I stick to that research side of it is when I'm asking these questions, I'm actually also getting things out of them. And that's just me. And like I say, it's your business and it's down to you how you do it and what works for you. Just with me, I know that I'm still getting things out of that customer. What research have you done? Oh, I've been on TUI and I've been on Jet2 and I've been on X. Right, okay, these people are really shopping around. I found a couple. Right, okay, so obviously you've not booked either of them. Tell me why you've not booked either of them. Well, one of them said it was an hour and a half transfer. Excellent, I can write that down. They don't want a long transfer. It's put them off booking. But it's coming in at silly prices. Now I'm getting into that side of it. It said it was a 25-minute walk from the beach. Okay, did you want to be closer to the beach than that? You didn't mention that earlier, so I'm going to jot that down. Oh, yeah, I want to be able to be near the beach. You're still getting different information out of them as well. How How does it work with clients from abroad? Are they subject to different T's and C's? So just go off the supplier T's and C's again. Just stick to the supplier T's and C's. The only thing that's different with US customers is obviously ABTA and things like that. Like the package regulations are different, but that's not necessarily going to affect a customer per se. But it could be that the supplier terms and conditions are different, cancellation fees and all that sort of thing. So just make sure you are checking them, even yourself, prior to selling that holiday. I thought we had to assist the client with visa requirements. Absolutely not. You are not obliged to do that at all. Not at all. Now, again, you can tell them to head towards the website, the Foreign Office website, things like that. You could even say to the, when it comes to, let's say, American visas, Canadian visas, Australian visas, where there's a lot of scams going around, and come to my website and it's $200 when actually it's $20 for the visa, by all means make sure that you are assisting them with the website and things like that. You do not have to, you can help a customer with a visa by all means. The only thing I would say with it is, and the reason that, again, I'm going to old employment here, but the reason we stopped doing it and I agreed with is if there is monetary value, if that visa costs money and you do it wrong, again, you are liable. That's the only thing I would say. If the visa's free, slightly different. If it means you're giving them the correct website where you know it's $20 and not $200, no problem whatsoever. But where there is a cost involved and it's that customer's money, if you could then be blamed if there's, I don't know, it could even be a missing letter in the name and therefore the name is wrong. An accidental touch of the wrong button and you've got the date of birth wrong, you would then be liable for that, the cost of that visa and sorting it out as well. Let's keep going. Crikey, you give me loads of questions tonight. I'm not used to this. Seat reservations on planes. There are certain seats that wheelchair users cannot sit in because of emergency evacuation rules. Yes, that is correct. You have to make that clear to a client who wasn't happy about it. Crikey. That's a bit of a full stop there, isn't it? Because you're right. You have to let them know. And unfortunately, they may not like it. But yeah, that literally is what it is. You do have to let them know. Same with extra legroom seats. Although, again, very different nowadays because a lot of airlines will have extra legroom seats that children can also sit in. But some still don't. So, families that want extra legroom seats, sometimes you have to just get straight to it. Unfortunately, you as a family cannot have extra legroom seats because you have a child that is under the age of 14, whatever it might be. I think it's still 14. Not checked that for a while. If you absolutely have got to have this extra legroom seat, the best that I would be able to do is put you, Mr. Smith, in the extra legroom seat and put Mrs. Smith and baby Smith on the aisle next to you, on the aisle behind. But unfortunately, children are not allowed to sit in the extra legroom seats. Simple as that. It's the airline rules, health and safety. It's for their safety as well. Full stop. I also put a disclaimer on my quotes that say suppliers can change the prices without previous notice. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just a case of that customer knowing. I think sometimes, in fact, I think a lot of the time they probably already do know and they're perhaps pushing the luck or something. But that's all you can do is just be honest. Prices are subject to change prior to that holiday being booked, prior to that confirmation, that booking reference being generated. As do I say that the quote that I give is only valid as of then, and prices can change. Absolutely. Let's have a look. Is there an option for me? Can you add me to your WhatsApp? Where are you from? Thorsten, pop it in the chat for me, please. I might just come back to you once I've stopped recording, because I do keep everybody at the end in case there's any other questions. The airlines give the time frame of the compensation. Yes, they do. Each airline is different. That is totally correct. And also, it depends on the reason. So I am recording, so I'll be careful what I say here. But on the last day of my holiday last year, last year, on the last day of my holiday, we were getting ready to go. We had a lovely flight, like breakfast, go back to the room, get our stuff. We're not rushing, but we're just up and go. And I received an email to say that I had had a I think it was 7-hour flight time change. But what the airline also put in my email, which I still thank them for to this day, is that they told me the reason I had a 7-hour flight time change is because of staffing issues. Now, obviously, we know that there's a problem there. We're not talking about bad weather. We're not talking about an electrical fault. You're telling me someone's rang in sick. And in return, I got £1,000 and something for that. But had they have told me that there was a last minute issue with the aircraft, I wouldn't have been entitled. I may have been entitled to £20 or something like that. But they do set out those guidelines. So again, every airline is different. You're absolutely right, but it also depends on the reasoning. So that's just something else to bear in mind. And kids should be allowed to have extra legroom seats because they can't reach the seats and kick them in the front. That's a really, really great valid point, by the way. That's a great point. Give all kids extra legroom seats so that they literally just can't reach the seat in front of them to kick it. Anywho, right. So, does anybody else have any other questions or anything on the training topic itself? If the answer to that is no, I'll give it a second. I can't see anyone typing. If the answer to that is no, I will, as per usual, stop the recording. I will say goodbye to everybody who isn't here right now in live time. And I've got about 5 minutes to answer any other questions that we may have for those of you that are here in real life. So to everybody that isn't, thank you very much. And hopefully you can join me next week. Thank you.